Okay, as before, when we did the previous video, we had this ball moving across a flat surface, and we're going to do the same procedures, but we're going to make some changes to those procedures while we actually make the ball roll uphill this time. So that being the case, is what I did is I made sure I selected everything in my scene, and then if I had any keyframes down here, I would make sure to delete them. Now it's key to actually select all the objects to make sure you eliminate all of the keyframes. So as I did that before I started creating this video, I will make sure to show you how it's done. So I'll select everything in scene, and you'll see that the keyframes exist down here in the animation bar. So I click and drag and window around all of those, and then just hit delete. You want to make sure that it does not delete any of your objects. So that being the case, I'm going to go ahead now and put my title bar back over here so everybody can see it. Let's get it set back over here. Don't know why it's not adjusting. It's just moving around and I'm not sure why. Okay, now that my thumb bar is set up and everything's all set to go, is what I want to do for the first procedure here is I'm going to have my edge faces turned on so I can see them. For those of you using a PC, you can just hit F4 on your keyboard. And for those of you using a Mac, you'll right click up here and make sure your edge faces are turned on. So what I want to do is by hitting F, I'm going to go into front view and I'm going to rotate this 40 degrees. The 40-degree mark, maybe in class we actually did was a little more. I think when we do the downslope we did it at 55 degrees, but we're going to do this one at 40. So we have it like 40 degrees. Let's go 45. That sounds good. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick the dummy object and I'm going to move it down to the bottom of this. I'm going to get it as close to the actual end of this as possible. So I'm just going to go ahead and manually place it at the bottom. Kind of like right there. I want this part here to line up with this part of the bone object. So I'll just move in. And I want to make sure that the ball is not actually going inside the mesh, so I'm just going to kind of set it on there as close as possible. No direct or exact science needed on this one. Now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to hit P and go back to perspective. Let's do this. And you'll see we have this, and we're going to have the ball actually traverse uphill. But one thing we're going to do is we're going to do this in twice as many keyframes. Where before as we did it in 100, this time we're going to click on this right here called the time configuration, and we're going to change this down here. Instead of 100 frames of animation, we're going to do it as 200. So as this time configuration window opens up, we're going to change the end time right here to 200 frames of animation, and now it's going to be twice as long. So where before where it ended at 100, now we have 200 frames. And the whole purpose of this is to make it appear as if this is almost like a car driving uphill. It's going to tend to be slower, or rather than moving by gravity, it's going to be defying gravity by going up. So it's actually going to be covering the same distance, but it's going to do it in twice the amount of time. So that being the case, I'm with the actual. I'm going to go to front view, and you see there's the bar. I'm going to click on the bone object, and I'm going to go down here in my title bar or scrub bar. I'm going to right click. I'm only going to need rotation and position. That's fine. I'm going to turn on auto key and move it all the way up towards the end. And I'm going to place it right about there. A little lower. Again, this is more of an aesthetics thing than it is an actual. So when I do that, I forgot to actually do something. Alright, let me put it back down. I forgot to move the slider bar, so let's go ahead and do that again. There we go. Let's zoom in. Whoops. Don't make that mistake and accidentally click on the mesh like I just did. Right about there. So you can see there's the actual plane. So now when this animation plays, we're going to get something that looks like this. With it selected, you can see the keyframe at 200 and the beginning frame at 100 or 0. I'm going to hit play, and it traverses the area. Go to perspective and see it takes twice as long to do it. Now where before, where we were rotating the ball at 360 degrees to cover the entire area, Actually, I'm going to make this a little closer to the edge. And I have, while I'm doing this change, I'm doing the change down here while my slider bar is set to 1 or 0, just so it covers or it doesn't overwrite what I've done. So I'm going to put it down here more at the bottom. And that automatically will update and change accordingly. So let me go ahead and go up. There it goes. It's traveling the same distance in twice the amount of time. Alright, now we're going to do the rotation of this. Now before, when we were rotating everything at 360 degrees, now we're going to rotate everything at 180 degrees. So it appears as if it's moving slower and actually trying to gain some traction as it's climbing up this incline. Now, while in real life, if this was a ball, we all know a ball cannot run uphill, but animation is not just the principles of movement. It's the principles of creating the illusion of movement. So while we went 10 frames before, this time we're going to go 20 frames, so twice as long, and this time we're going to rotate it 360 degrees. So if we went at 10 frames, of course that's 180, but now at 20 frames, twice as many frames, we'll do our 360. So now as it rolls uphill, it'll appear as if it's going slower. Alright. Now I'm going to continue to make these keyframes all the way up to the end, every 20 keyframes, the next one being at 40, rotating another 360 degrees. But I am going to pause the video at this point, create all my keyframes so I don't have to waste time on the video by doing that. Alright, so there it is. I went ahead and animated everything, and I'll go ahead and hit play now. I'll back to 0 and I'll hit play and turn the edge faces off. So it appears as if it's climbing. It's essentially the same thing we did, but we are making it cover twice the distance or twice the amount of time, but the exact distance, and it appears as if the ball is moving slower. So in this case now I would like for you to save this one to where the other one we named as flat. This one I want you to save as up. This is ball roll up. And that concludes this video. There'll be another one showing the ball rolling down. Actually, I may even have enough time to show it, so I'll go ahead and make this one be the one that I will do for going down. So I'll just stay in this for this frame, or this video. I'll select everything in my scene, delete the keyframes. Now essentially what we're going to do is make sure that we have no keyframes. We're going to make sure that this is set to 0 on its rotation, where before when we set it at 45 degrees, we'll just put it at 45 degrees flat. But we're going to decrease this one now at a 40 degrees down angle. So I'm going to put the ball, go through the same amount of steps we did to set up the other one. Put the ball at the very top. I think this is a little more convenient than creating a new video from scratch, so we'll just do this. Now before, where we actually covered everything in 100 frames going flat surface, 200 frames going over a incline or up an incline, this one we're going to do at 50 frames, so half the amount of frames of 100. Oh, not 500. 50 frames, and we're going to have it speed down the hill. So once again, on frame 0, I right click, create a keyframe for position and rotation, turn on my auto key, move it to frame 50, visually just set where this needs to go at the bottom. Right about there. Actually, I'll go right about there. So now in 50 frames, it goes even faster. Now before we were rotating 360 degrees at 20 frames, this time we're only going to be doing it at 5 frames. Now some of you may have markers for, as mine are shown here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so where only even numbers are shown. Traditionally odd numbers are shown on the scroll bar, so just know to move it 5 frames. We will rotate it downhill 360 degrees. Another 5 frames. 10. And again, I'll pause the video so I can go ahead and do this. Okay, now I have all my keyframes set. I just paused the video there for a real brief instance, just so I could set them manually. Now when I hit play on this one, you'll notice it'll go, of course, twice as fast, and it'll appear as if you can't really see what the ball is doing, and if you play it at a slower speed, it may actually appear as if the ball is moving in the wrong direction, or rotating in the wrong direction. But trust me, it is. It's an optical illusion. It's like when you look at a hubcap on a speeding car, it looks like it's standing still or even moving backwards. That's kind of the illusion we're seeing here. But if you play it slow, like right now I'm playing it at quarter speed, you can see in actuality it is moving correctly. Again, it's covering the same distance, but this time in half the amount of time. And I'm playing it at quarter speed right now, so let's play it at full speed. 1. And I'll select the bone object here and I'll hide it so you can actually just see the ball. So let's go ahead and go back to 0, and I'll let the animation play. This one you will want to save as ball roll down. And you will be turning in all of these three as part of your final projects for this class, and that concludes these basic setups for animation.